everyone. Thank you so much for joining in. I hope you all are having a wonderful weekend. I'm just waiting for a few more people to join in, and we will be starting our conversation with Nayantara Nandakumar. Hello, ma'am.
Hello.
Am I audible? Can you hear me and see me?
Yes, I can hear you well. Can you hear me?
Yes, you're audible.
Great.
Okay, ma'am. I'll just start off now. I'm just waiting for a few more people to join in, and I'll start off. I hope the internet connection is fine from my end.
Yes, I hope it's good from mine end.
It is. It is.
Let me know if you can hear me consistently.
Thank you so much, everyone, for joining in. I hope you all are having a wonderful weekend. Today is the 5th episode of the conversation series with Women of Substance, and I'm extremely happy to introduce our guest for today, Nayantara Nandakumar, an environmental engineer and an Odissi dancer. She is the disciple of Guru Jyoti Raut and Guru Swati Mahalakshmi. She has performed in a number of dance festivals in India as well as abroad, a few of which are the Konark Dance and Music Festival, the Auroville Annual Festival, the Ethnic Dance Festival, to name a few. She has performed at fundraisers for non-violent peace force at Santa Cruz, Asha for Education in Berkeley, the Tamil Refugee Fundraiser in South Bay. Every time she dances, she feels joy, gratitude, and devotion. She has over a decade of experience in engineering and the construction industry. She's provided engineering and product management services on large infrastructure projects. And she's also worked on hazardous assignments such as the tunnel and bridge construction in remote areas which are accessible only by helicopters or rappelling down mountainous terrains for groundwater assessments. She is the founder of Our Sacred Space, an inclusive center space, a creative space that promotes art, wellness, a love for nature that transcends borders and creates community. This holistic approach supports an individual's personal evolution through interdisciplinary processes like dance, yoga, natural living, pottery, music, craft, theatre, growing your own food, etc. For all the wonderful work that Tara ma'am does, she was awarded by a number of organizations, a few of which are the World Peace Award from the UN Peace Ambassador, the Rotary Award for Vocational Excellence, the Prerna Award for empowering women farmers from the Mahindra Group. She is also the founder of the Telangana Heritage Centre in Dharur, which has a number of activities, a few of which is sustainable agriculture and sustainable architecture. There is a lot more to say about Tara ma'am, but this was just a brief introduction for those of you who do not know her. Thank you so much, ma'am, for accepting to be a part of this series. I'm really happy to have you here and have this conversation with you.
Thank you for inviting me.
Ma'am, before I start off with my questions, my first question is definitely going to be about Our Sacred Space. But this is something that I have always said every time I performed at Sacred Space, and I say it today also 5 years later. Our Sacred Space happened to me at a time when I was drifting away from art and dance. And it gave me an opportunity not just to start teaching, but to also interact with so many like-minded individuals and interact with so many artists. So I thank you for giving us Our Sacred Space, and a space not just for artists, but for art lovers as well. Thank you so much for that, ma'am. And
I always think of you as one of our favorite teachers.
Thank you, ma'am.
You started with one student and now look at your class.
Yes.
Fabulous.
Yes. I still remember I had one student for the longest time, but it didn't matter because the beautiful space that you created really helped one be at peace with themselves by just being in that environment. So tell us a little bit, ma'am, about what inspired you to set up our sacred space? A little bit about that journey, please.
So, our sacred space is a study in building peace in our community, in building community, looking at what our city needs the most and providing those services to improve our lives in the city. So while we work from our area of expertise, which is art, wellness, and environment, these are the areas are core areas. What we are really working on is building compassionate society. So would you like me to talk further on the
Please,
programs we have?
maybe a few incidents you'd like to share with us, which happened during the process of starting the place. Anything would you like to share with all of us?
So basically, I started building it around the practices that worked in my life. As I looked at a city that, what would really benefit a city and then I looked at people who I felt had been instrumental over the time. In Berkeley, I was able to witness processes that could really bring people together and hold a space with compassion while addressing issues deeply felt. So we've also worked in these processes, whether it is meditation, dance. Dance is a wonderful way to heal, to exercise, to connect with others. Also, we've had processes like nonviolent communication, heal your life, play for peace. These can really create healthy societies psychologically, and the bonds and the understanding that we create through these processes will lead to a happier, peaceful future.
True, true. That's wonderful, ma'am. And I must say, as a person who not just teaches at Sacred Space, but who also experiences a lot of this peace at Sacred Space, it's really a wonderful space to have in the center of the city. So we all do benefit from it. But how has it been for you, ma'am, in 2020 to be away from the center and to have everything shifted online? How has that transition been for you?
Yes, that has been different. We moved online fairly quick.
Yes.
March, we decided to shift online. And after, has it been 8 years? It has been quite a change. But I do still live here, right, at Sacred Space. So I get to use the space for my practice.
Right.
So there is some dance happening, there's some coloring happening right here. I find that the online platform has been interesting. Actually, I would not have chosen it, because what you can gain from an in-person session, certainly there is some amount that you lose in an online session. But it has opened up to us, so many possibilities, from students who are coming into us from overseas. From so many of our classes are now attended by students from other countries.
Yes.
And as well as facilitators coming in. And our talk series, we are having a lot of people coming in from other countries and other cities. So I think it really brings people together who are working on these areas, who are on the same wavelength. And that has been a wonderful uniting experience.
Wonderful. That is true, ma'am. And the power of social media has never been stronger, I think. And we are lucky to have it.
Yes.
Ma'am, before you started our sacred space, you had moved out of India to study engineering. Was that something you always wanted to do? And how was that journey of studying and working in the field of engineering and construction?
Well, yes, it was not something I really always wanted to do. It was the logical next step from my academic career.
Okay.
So I went to the US to do my master's in environmental engineering, and with the hope to come back and really work in rural India, work in the grassroots. So I wanted to work in water and wastewater, and then come back to India and work in that field. So when I wrote my statement of purpose, which I recently found after I wrote that in '95.
Wow.
So really long time ago. I wrote that I was quoting a Native American chief, and I said, I would like to work towards a just, equitable, and sustainable world. Now, with our work at our sacred space, every day I see that hope becoming a reality. Each day and each project, both at Secunderabad and in Dharur, we see that manifesting.
Right.
And so my journey took me first at Virginia Tech, where I did my master's, and then I went over to California, where I worked on large infrastructure projects for the Department of Transportation, Caltrans, as well as for geotechnical consultants. Now, I got to see during that period, and really coming back to India, I value the kind of sound engineering that was practiced on a daily basis. Their specifications are routinely followed, and coming back and observing infrastructure here, I really value the kind of integrity in the engineering. Of course, I worked primarily in a very progressive city, San Francisco. Even as far as the engineering is concerned, it is very progressive. I also learned a lot of skills during my time there. And alongside my, professional career, I was attending a number of, I would spend a lot of time in the pottery studio in Berkeley, in UC Berkeley. So I would also, I had a, amazing yoga teacher in Berkeley, and so at that time it was a time of deep study. I would attend all the. I was part of a lot of the environmental movements there. So I was living among people who really were walking the talk, and it was a period of great introspection as well as study. So at the yoga center, we were studying all the, wisdom traditions, saints and sages from various wisdom traditions, and looking at how they really are saying the same thing.
Right.
So you look at a text like Dhammapada, which is 2,000 years ago, written 2,000 years ago. You look at a contemporary voice like Swami Shivananda Radha, who wrote things maybe 30 years ago, 50 years ago. And you just see the aliveness, the relevance to your own life, and from there, the possibilities and the access to real evolution.
Right.
So I had a wonderful yoga teacher, Hari Charan Das, who really was someone who, led us all along.
Right, that's wonderful. And ma'am, was that the first time you did something with body movement in terms of like yoga, or were you always inclined towards yoga and dancing?
Yeah, I think my mother got me started on yoga when I was 13.
Okay.
And the teacher I learned from is Chandrakant, was a yoga teacher at Sacred Space.
Okay.
So it was really coming full circle.
Right.
I also learned dance as a child from Guru Manjula Ramaswamy.
Okay.
An intense period of time, and I really feel that I'm very grateful for the foundation.
Yes.
And body movement, I learned a lot of different dance. One of the dance forms I focused on before moving into Odissi was Congolese dance.
Okay.
My teacher was Mrs. Kilambi, who was very gifted dancer. Congolese dance and culture, the West African culture has incredible depth, phenomenal music. So to be, be able to experience and learn from a master was just really fortunate.
Could you tell us a little bit about that dance form, ma'am? I'm not sure if too many people know about it.
So it is a dance form that comes from Congo, and it is very grounded. You plie as you dance. There's a lot of rotation of circular movements. And again, just like some of our dances, it is goes with, there are dances for the harvest festival. There are dances for different times, and for when different times of like of life, like when you're giving birth, when you're so to celebrate the arrival of a child, to celebrate so, and the music is phenomenal. West African music, the Congolese, Senegalese, the drums are they almost talk to you. They come alive, and then you cannot help move.
But move. Wow.
So,
and when did Odissi happen, ma'am? Like, was that also something that just happened, or was it something you were always drawn towards, the Odissi dance form?
Well, while I was learning Bharatanatyam as a child, I once saw Odissi, and I felt deeply like, oh, I'd really like to learn that. But there was no Odissi teacher in Hyderabad at the time.
Okay.
So when I moved to Berkeley, I thought, I'm now too old to learn Odissi, and I kind of gave up on it. And I would just watch the class. So for a year, I just watched the class, thinking it's just so beautiful.
Wow.
And then I asked Guru Jyoti Rao if I could learn, and I've been with her for 20 years since.
Wow. What is the one thing that you can say, ma'am, that Odissi has taught you besides the technical aspects of the dance?
So Odissi has taught me, well, one thing about Odissi is that every time I listen to the music, I'm just blown away. It's so sweet. And, I can listen to it, today, and then tomorrow, it's just like, wow, and the nuances, the music has, some South Indian Carnatic, some similarities and some similarities from the North. Also the lyrical movement of the dance form. So I think also I think those are some of the aspects that.
Right. And ma'am, I have watched you perform a few times, and as an audience, not as a dancer, but as an audience, I genuinely feel that when you dance, you aren't in the spot that you're actually dancing. I feel that you're so immersed in it that what you're feeling is actually coming through to the audience. So how important is it for you as an artist to get that same energy from the audience that you're giving out? Or is it something that you're doing irrespective of who's watching you?
Yeah, it's something that we're doing for a higher energy. So it is something that you are connecting with, and you are dancing for. And also, definitely, there have been audiences, when I used to dance in festivals. So very varied audience. Sometimes there's a lot of movement in the crowd. Especially as a young dancer, you're going dancing so many festivals. And then actually one of my favorite performances, I think, was at the International Permaculture Conference. And at that point, I was I can't say I was at my best form, but I had with me my students from Sofkin, who the energy of the group was phenomenal. The energy from the audience, I have, such an audience, diverse audience, but completely understanding the dance. So the energy from the audience was palpable, and it was just a phenomenal performance.
Wow, that's amazing, ma'am. Like, I'm actually getting goosebumps now thinking about that time I saw you dance, because I remember telling you also when you had performed in Sacred Space, you had done a piece on Jagannath, and I really connected with it as an audience. So it is a very out of body experience, I think, both for the artist and the audience, and it's wonderful. Ma'am, I feel as an artist, there is a lot of influence of theater also in you. Am I right when I say that? Does it play a role in your performance as a dancer or an artist in general?
I have done some theatre both with Devendranath Shankar Narayan and Parnab Mukherjee. So alternate theatre primarily, and but dance is my primary form of expression.
Right. That's lovely, ma'am. Ma'am, you recently founded the Telangana Heritage Centre that works on a number of activities, a few of which are sustainable agriculture and sustainable architecture. Could you please tell us something about these courses and what the intention is of starting these courses for people?
So the intention is really for Telangana Heritage Centre to support the craftsmanship of the region. As we see the traditional knowledge of whether it is farming or basket weaving, pottery, um, uh, building with natural materials, all these areas, the traditional knowledge is dwindling really fast.
Yes.
So the idea is to support, whether it is even the traditional carving and the carpentry, which the area has beautiful uh, workmen in. So very soon people are just moving to working with cement instead of the natural materials, the slate roofs, the wooden beams, the mud walls. These are vanishing very fast. So our goal is to support this so it can carry on for the next generation.
Right.
So we do that. It's a two-way learning experience.
Yes.
So we are there to learn from the village. We built a mud house with a bamboo roof that was gifted to us by Telangana Progressive Telangana Foundation. And the mud, we made a few different kinds of walls. And very people are making it with mudgalu as well as wattle and the weaving of the beads. So now this knowledge is unlikely to survive another generation unless there is, some systematic support.
Yes.
So we also have been sharing sustainable processes. So we've had processes like bioenzyme, teaching our local community how to make bioenzyme, so that we can avoid the pitfalls that we as an urban society have gone through. Using detergents and polluting the waterways that needn't happen in the village. Also, we've had permaculture workshops by Aranya Agricultural Alternatives. Narsana and Padmaka have come and visited and had discussions. We've had workshops where city people attend as well as art people from the village.
Okay.
There is so much. It's a permaculture principles which we have adopted at Dharur, which basically are earth care, people care, and fair share. So as we adopt these principles and through the ripple effect, what happens is that you are building again stronger communities.
Yes. Right. That's wonderful, ma'am, and that's a lot of work that you have taken on, and you're doing for the community. So thank you so much for that, ma'am. Ma'am, your work got recognized. The work that you're doing for empowering women farmers. What is it that you have learned from them, ma'am?
I have learned a lot, and I have had to unlearn a lot of my training in corporate America as
Wow.
I started working in Dharur. Um, there is a real sense of community. When we worked last year doing some training for the widows of farmer suicide, um, who we did these trainings for Kisan Mitra, what we saw was that a lot of the families who have gone through such a traumatic experience have actually psychologically healed well. So there is the community support,
Okay.
which I think in urban India we really do, we don't always have. There is
Right.
a support system which is very effective. There is a process of grieving which is effective. And so I think there are so many things. When I even look at children in the, we city people call them underprivileged. But
Yes.
really, aren't they more privileged? There's clean air, there's space to play, they are able to be part of growing their own food. Sometimes they even are part of building their own houses
Wow.
with natural materials. Now, these are really skills as a child, which are invaluable. And simply walking in there as city people and trying to transplant, what we call education, I think is, we have to look at it and really see what uh, value we can bring in and what we can learn.
Right. Right. Ma'am, you pointed out that the community is very strong over there, and the children are equally strong because of the environment they're growing up in. But somehow, for urban youngsters, it has become a little difficult for them to handle the pressures that the urban community puts on them at pretty young ages, because of which the pressure leads them to take wrong steps or move in the wrong direction. Not just youngsters, I feel even young adults. So what would your message be for people who come and meet certain obstacles in their life? What would your message be for them to overcome it and come out stronger?
I would say look at, the I would say what the advice my yoga teacher gave me when I would go and
Okay.
ask Haricharan. Um, and one of the things he would say is look for your answers from the saints and sages. So look for those books, whether, for me it is maybe Thich Nhat Hanh and Dalai Lama, people who have lived through very difficult lives. Look at Bishop Desmond Tutu, you know, look at their choices. As we read lives of such people, I think we get a lot of answers for our own difficulties. Also within our own families. So for me, I have always drawn strength from my father, who's incredibly patient. He just does not judge anyone. He lets everyone be exactly as they are.
Wow.
And so from those, so look at the people who are bringing peace to
Yes.
your surroundings and ask advice.
Right.
One piece of advice that really helped me was when I was going through some difficulties and I asked my friend Eleanor Moses. And she said, when life gives you lemons, make some lemonade. And she told me something which was so empowering. She said, I was feeling terrible. I was feeling really down. And she said, Tara, you are not a victim. And Eleanor knew what she was talking about. And so I always, when I felt bad later in life, I always said, well, you are not a victim, right? And then you really know how to move forward. You really know, once you have processed whatever setback you are experiencing, existential or material, you then can take the next step forward.
Right. That's some great advice, ma'am, and it's wonderful hearing it from a woman like you who is extremely strong and inspiring, according to me. So thank you so much, ma'am, for that. Ma'am, I came across a post of yours on Facebook a while ago. You posted a beautiful picture of you performing on stage, and the caption was something like you were pregnant, 3 months pregnant, and you still performed because you had a wonderful guru who supported you to do that. So, can you tell us something about performing with your little one as a part of you? How was that
Yes, I
experience?
think it was phenomenal. I had a fantastic gynecologist, my aunt, Dr. Padmini, and her advice to me was the more you exercise, the healthier the baby will be.
Wow.
So, while she cautioned me not to jump, and my guru was also confident of leading me through the process, um, it was really, I could, I would, it was really incredible to understand how our bodies are naturally made for giving birth. So we don't really have to look at it as a illness or a sickness. It is the most natural process, and we can dance right through it. And I danced through it till my 9th month.
Wow.
I was teaching my kids at Sofkin after that, and I think that's what kept me healthy.
Wonderful. And how did taking up the role of a mother change your life, ma'am? How was that experience? Because I have seen your son since the past 5 years since I've been associated with Sacred Space, and it's such a beautiful relationship I see between the two of you. So, can you tell us a little bit about your role as a mother, the role of parenting, the role it plays in your life?
It really changed everything for me. I well, I think it deepened my connection with nature. It deepened my concern for environment, and to talk about it in context of sacred space. I think a lot of the work that I took to the next level to take it really, when you think about the toxic elements that are involved in building a space.
Yes.
Right now, in our present climate, we use toxic paints, we use toxic cement.
Yes.
So, even the varnish is, volatile organic compounds, which are really unhealthy. Becoming a mother, I was really aware of every single thing that when I was expecting what I was consuming, as well as anything that I was putting in, feeding my child.
Right.
Also the space that the child was inhabiting. So I think it really changed everything. The way I looked at things, I was already very conscious about environmental sustainability, but it took me the next step. When I was expecting, I told the Lama at the Buddhist temple, and he told me something which was, I think, very helpful in as a mother. He said, so the child that you are now welcoming is into the world is you have to treat the child like he's the Buddha. How would you treat the Buddha if the Buddha came to your house?
Wow.
So that is something that you just ask yourself the question: And how would you treat the Buddha when he doesn't do his homework? So,
Right.
so, uh, but I think for me that has been one of my most instrumental parenting techniques.
Wow. It's wonderful, ma'am. Wonderful. Ma'am, Sacred Space deals with a lot of activities which help people realize what inner work means and how important it is. And we speak a lot about development in our surroundings and the external factors. What is it according to you, ma'am? Do you think the inner and the outer factors are in sync? They need to be in sync for an overall development of an individual or a community or a society? What is your take on this?
So, like I said, when we look at our personal evolution, I think that is our primary responsibility as responsible citizens. How are we evolving, and how can we support the evolution of our family members? On the When we look at development from an environmental aspect, uh, let us look at the problems involved um, with with development.
Yes.
So, what are the problems we are facing today? We have air pollution, we have water pollution, we have um, toxic chemicals that are used in our production of our foods. So, as we analyze our present situation, I think that will give us answers to where we would like to go as far as development. How do we improve our current situation? So, so we are aware of the industrial contamination of soil, of groundwater, of air, of the destruction of ecosystems, and wildlife habitats all over the world are being destroyed every day. Toxic chemicals and heavy metals are entering our food and our bloodstreams. Agricultural practices are not financially viable, and the use of poisonous fertilizers and pesticides, harmful for the soil and for the farm worker and for the consumer,
Right.
are now mainstream, right? So these are the problems that we are facing, as all of us are aware. So processed foods have added chemicals that lead to significant health impacts, and the use of plastic and cement, petroleum products, and such are causing widespread pollution. Now, as a country, we are dependent on imported fossil fuel, and global warming just seems to be inevitable, right? Traditional arts and crafts, livelihood are rapidly dying. And when we look around us, I was abroad for 14 years, senior citizens are living alone.
Yes.
Often children are abroad or in other cities. So these are some of the situations that we are facing. Now, our work, both at Sacred Space, actually addresses each of these issues. And so when we look at development again, we really realize, we have to see how can we address these pressing problems. And it is really for each citizen. So what really is development? Development could include, improving the quality of life for each citizen, providing healthcare, access to healthcare, and financial support, financial resources, reliable law enforcement, responsible bureaucracy, reliable judiciary, fair trade. And with each of these, we sometimes look at these as is it only in a utopian country? Is it only in a utopian situation? But no, I have seen in various countries, these are very possible realities. It is up to each of us to decide that we will work towards these. So when we look at, if we want clean air, clean water, self-reliant local and regional communities, food sovereignty, equitable water rights, a low carbon footprint, and an understanding that we are all equal stakeholders, as are all other living things. So it is not just a planet for humans, it's a planet for all living beings. And as we grow more conscious, and I think this pandemic has been a real wake-up call for us to look deeper into what is development. So true development can come when each individual takes initiative to ensure progress in their area of interest, expertise, and social action by informed citizens working alongside a democratically elected government can also lead to sustained development. It is an achievable reality, and we are all equal stakeholders, as are the unborn children of the next generation. So our rapacity with which we are consuming all the resources of our earth, we really need to stop. And I think the pandemic has been a reality check for each of us. And we need to see what is it that we can do in our own lives.
Yes.
So we can start from using less plastic, using bioenzymes instead of using detergents. We can really look at what is possible, maybe composting, using less fossil fuel. What is it that we can do in our own, with our skill set? Each of us are extremely powerful. And when citizens take initiative, then you can really see that we will leave the earth better than we inherited it. I think that is something that our current generation has to take cognizance of. We no longer have the luxury of, pushing it over to the next generation,
right,
to care for them.
Right. That is such a vital point. Yes, ma'am. Yeah. You were saying, ma'am, please go ahead. I'm sorry.
So again, when I speak of these things, these are really the underlying intention, the underlying issues which we address through our work at our sacred space, given our skill sets, right? So when we started doing when I did the permaculture course initially at Aranya Agricultural Alternatives, I was amazed by the number of people who are really changing and turning their lives around and living much more earth-friendly lives. So I think that I feel very positive and very optimistic, because at Sacred Space every day we are seeing people who are conscious and who are evolving personally and collectively.
Yes, and that is so true, ma'am. I think our sacred space gives people a sense of direction. It helps us, it guides us in moving in that direction. And sometimes it's very easy for us to sit in our homes and wonder, what can we do? We don't know what to do. So when we have a center which offers us workshops and talks and events which speaks about being kinder to each other, being nicer to the environment, being more cautious about what we do, I think it's fantastic, and I really look forward to getting back to our sacred space physically soon, hopefully, once the pandemic ends and we come out of this stronger. So thank you so much, ma'am, for putting forth such strong points which will definitely help us think about what we are doing and what we should be doing. Before I sign off, ma'am, I have one question that I would like to ask you. You are somebody who loves nature. You are somebody who is doing so much for the betterment of the earth that we're living in. If you had to answer, which would be your favorite element of nature, your favorite Panchabhuta, which one do you relate to the most and why? What would it be?
I think it would be water.
Water? Okay.
I love the flexibility of water.
Right.
It just flows.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful, ma'am.
It's
And it's so
cooling, it's hot, yeah, it has all of the.
right, right.
I,
Thank you.
as we end, I would like to thank my dance teachers, um, Srimati Manjula Ramaswamy, Guru Jyoti Rao, and I'm now learning with Guru Swati Mahalakshmi, who she has learned from, 3 dance forms
Yes.
from greats, from Guru Kel Charan Mahapatra, from Guru Rukmani Devi Arundel, and from Vempati Chinnasatyam Garu. So it has been the generosity of my teachers that I have inherited something that gives me great joy and fills me every day with a love of life.
It's wonderful, and that's such a wonderful relationship we share with our teachers, ma'am. Thank you so much for sharing your love for your teachers. And are there any parting thoughts you would like to share with us, ma'am, before we sign off? I had a wonderful time chatting with you.
There is one thought I would like to share. You know, Masu Masanobu Fukuoka, in his book The One Straw Revolution, I'll quote approximately. He said that when a child's heart is filled with joy, then that child you can call the child musically gifted. So let me see, I've got it written down here. It is when the heart is filled with song that the child can be said to be musically gifted.
Wow.
So the question I have is, how our dance and music training, are we really nurturing and supporting? Because we dance with joy, we sing with joy. Are we nurturing and supporting these, the the joy in the heart of the child? So that is a parting thought. At Sacred Space, as you know, we don't have any competitions. I think country suffers from way too much competition, and what we see more is festivals at Sacred Space, where we can really celebrate each child for the uniqueness, for the beauty, and the special talent that each dancer brings.
Yes.
So that would be.
And that is a wonderful thought, ma'am. And just to add, all my students wanted me to let you know that they miss coming to Sacred Space and performing and dancing and just being able to be themselves and take in so much more than just a dance form at this beautiful space that you've given us. So thank you so much, ma'am, for that.
I look forward to your coming back, and I look forward to your online performance soon.
Yes, it's going to happen on the 3rd of October. They are really excited for it, and thank you so much for giving them this opportunity, ma'am. Thank you. It's very encouraging. Thank you, ma'am. It was wonderful to hear your experience. It's definitely something to think about, and it gives us a sense of direction. I hope you continue to do the wonderful work that you're doing. Thank you so much for everything, ma'am, and taking the time out for this conversation.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye-bye.